What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Guys, today we are hopping right into Buried, another Tim Hansen episode. I'm really excited for this one because I love Buried. I'm sure you're going to hear me say it a million times through this video, but I do love Buried. It was the map in Black Ops 2 that I played the most. I have the most memories on this map. So much fun. I'm excited to hear what he has to say. Guys, if you're new here, welcome. We do mostly zombies over here, so if that's something you're into, consider subscribing. Guys, let's take a look at Barry. Let's see what's up.
BO2 Zombies is interesting. Certainly the most polarizing zombies game. On one half, you have some of the worst maps ever produced, some of the shittiest, poorly designed maps of all time. But on the other half, you have some of the best maps of all time.
Yeah, that's true. That's this right here. This is very true. One side of the spectrum, we have some, wow, like not so great maps, but wow, over here we got some bangers. We got some absolute bangers.
Phenomenal finish to such a controversial game. There was a clash between the Victus storyline and the Primus storyline, a clash between two different developers, Zelinsky and Blundell. Transit and Dire,
who's the GOAT? Who's the GOAT? I think we all know the answer.
Though containing their own fan base and their own niche in the community, were received poorly as a whole and were generally considered to be some of the worst maps of all time. Contrastly, however, Mob of the Dead and Origins are inarguable top 5s. They're absolute masterpieces and are largely deemed as the two greatest zombies maps of all time. And
dude, oh, I'm so excited for just everything coming up after Buried. I just like so excited. I'm gonna switch it up on you guys. I'll tell you more about that at the end of the video, but whew.
Town was really a fun, simple bonus experience, but there was one other map that didn't really fall into either faction, and that's Buried. Buried is the anomaly. Now, of course, Buried is a significant piece to the Victus storyline, and technically speaking,
can we all, like what is this spawn? Like, in comparison to the rest of the map that we're about to drop into, like, this spawn has always just been so crazy to me. I mean, I get it. It's like a big excavation site, buried, you know, like we're underground in the map and stuff, but man, it's always thrown me off.
Would be a part of that faction, but I never considered it to be a part of that group. Cool. In terms of raw gameplay, it felt different. It was the one Victus map that I enjoyed. It's the one Victus map that didn't totally suck, in my opinion. It had a lot of redeeming qualities. It had a great atmosphere. It just stood out. It was different than the other Victus maps. It really
did stand out. Buried was such a standout map of its game. Like, a Western themed map that is so cool.
And releasing in between two of the greatest maps ever, Mob of the Dead and Origins, it was naturally outshined as well and became one of the more underrated maps. The Victus maps were generally not good, but Buried, of course, was unique. It was different, and today we're going to be analyzing it. What it did right, what it did wrong, everything. If you guys do go on to enjoy this video, make sure to smash that like button. I am going on a trip very soon to DC and then to West Virginia to camp with my homies in the wilderness for a week, and I hope you guys stay tuned for the one upload I have prepared. It's probably going to be a custom map, so the uploads are going to be a bit slow this week. Hopefully I don't get mauled by a bear, and hopefully I come back and I can upload more. The events of Buried, of course, follow
guys. Make sure to go check out Tim Hansen's channel. Like we've talked about in many of the other previous videos, I understand he's one of the bigger YouTubers, but seriously, guys, these videos, they've been my main content lately, so I want to make sure that he gets that credit that he deserves. He's a great YouTuber, guys. Make sure to check out that channel.
Transit and Die Rise, the third and final destination after igniting the other two pylons. The player chooses to either complete Maxis's quest or Richtofen's quest in order to wrap up the zombie storyline. In fact, Buried is the last zombies map chronologically. It was a massive Easter egg with a massive conclusion to end a massive story. At the time, of course, because now we just keep unearthing more and more details with the story. The fact that it was the ending of
I see what you did there.
Victus back in BO2, and the fact that it was the final installment made it all the more important and already separated itself from Transit and Die Rise. But again, it wasn't necessarily the story that made Buried so drastically different than the other Victus maps.
You know what it was? You know what it was that made it so different? Well, I don't know about the rest of the, well, yeah, about the rest of the Victus maps, is that it offered everything to both the casual fan base and the hardcore fan base that was in it for the story and Easter eggs and everything. It's just has everything in Buried. Buried is a jack of all trades map. It's great.
It had a lot more to do with the map itself and the gameplay it had to offer. The number one thing that separates Buried from every other zombies map out there:
atmosphere. Buried just totally S tier's atmosphere.
Is its atmosphere and its vibe. Though the map technically takes place in Africa due to the shift in tectonic plates after the explosions, the map is really an old American Western town buried underneath the Earth's surface. The map is shaped together just the way an American town would be in the Wild West, which is of course a very unique atmosphere and a very unique location, something we hadn't seen any shred of resemblance to in the past. The buildings made of wood.
I'm telling you, a Western themed map was just so cool because it was just such on the other side of the spectrum from everything else that we've been playing.
Wooden planks, the dusty, barren dirt ground, the colonial style furniture all exemplify the West and the
hardcore.
Honest to God, hats off to Treyarch for bringing together such an amazing atmosphere. And they combine this with a unique HUD and some weapons of the time, including the Remington New Model Army pistol. Buried gives us a taste of the Wild West and a map that would take place underground. It was an odd combination, but it was a combination that seemed to work just fine. This highly detailed map truly illuminated the American West. It's one of the big factors as to why Buried became the anomaly. It's what separated it from not only the Victus map,
and then it got like buried underneath everything else because I truly feel like it's such an underrated experience. Like it's an easy one to kind of forget. I'm guilty of it. I forget it too. Like whenever I like see even like this video here of Buried, I'm like, oh yeah, Buried. Like Buried was great. Like it's just something that like it maybe doesn't even make it on my top 5 maps, but it's just it should be. And I don't know, like it's just an easy one to forget, but it was a goat.
But pretty much every map, there wasn't an atmosphere we had previously seen that was similar or have seen since this map release. But Buried's atmosphere isn't the only glaring difference. There's also the gameplay. Buried has a way of doing things differently than every other Zombies map, but we are going to focus on the other Victus maps in particular. Transit and Die Rise tend to make you wait a lot, which in turn destroys the flow of the map. You're either waiting for a bus to take you from point A to point B, or you're waiting for elevators to give you the things you need. Whereas in Buried, the minute you spawn in, you're granted much more freedom. You have many more paths to take. You can either
Buried was such a fluid experience, and that was also the change up that I felt like both the casuals and just even, you know, hardcores, but it was more of a casual experience, and so that's why I feel like it stood out to me, like because I would put myself in the casual category. I'd like to think of myself as a hardcore player because I love the Easter eggs, I love the storyline for Zombies, but when it comes down to it, my favorite maps are always seem to fall under a more casual experience. Like I don't know.
They're chill and spawn for a little bit, wait to grab the LSAT maybe off
for
the
casual
wall,
reasons.
Then jump into the map. You could either jump straight down, unlock Leroy from his cage, and start opening up the map. You could go straight to the power switch. You could go straight to the bank and withdraw all of your money. You could draw the wall guns with the chalk and
wherever you
those,
want.
Or
you could draw those wherever you want. There's so much freedom.
Straight to the box, since that's presentable right away. On Buried, from the very beginning, the gates are wide open. There aren't any irritating nuisances holding you back. Whereas on the other Victus maps, everything seems to be holding you back. There's sort of an aroma surrounding Transit and Die Rise. When I spawn in, I already feel sort of trapped. I'm either waiting for Ted to move his slow ass or I'm waiting for a specific elevator to arrive. On Buried though, it's much different. Everything is in
much
your control.
different.
On Buried, everything seems to be working with you. And this is of course personified through Leroy.
And that's what we needed. That is what we needed at the time, is just a map to just, come on, work with us here. Like, stop making us wait for buses. Stop making us wait for elevators. Like, just like, let's play some zombies. And I feel like that's what Buried was. Once you drop into this experience, literally, it's just like this great casual, yet you can make it interesting. It's just all around. I love it. I'm telling you, you're gonna hear me say that a lot.
I guess his real name is Arthur, but the big motherfucker. You feed him booze, you feed him candy.
Buried is an exciting map.
He helps you build some of the buildables on the map. He helps you a lot with a lot of different things. On the other Victus maps, everyone is against you. You feel alone. But on this map, you quite literally have help. From the very beginning of the game, you feel the difference between Buried and the others. You jump right into the game. You do whatever you want from the very beginning. There isn't a bus that leaves you behind. There isn't lava that burns you constantly. There aren't denizens scratching your face. There aren't inconsistent...
You just get to play some zombies. There's cool additions like Leroy, new wonder weapons, new perks, new like thing with the witch's house, like the... It's just a cool experience, and you get to choose what you want to do. It's not like forcing you to go. It's not a linear experience.
Elevators all holding you back. You're being pushed forward on Buried.
So good.
That's the biggest difference. It helps with the flow. It helps with the player being able to do what they want. It helps with so many things. Now, of course, one of the biggest
Fluidity
flaws
is
of
important
Buried
in
is
this
the
game,
bank
for
system.
sure.
How you're able to
In
get
my
down to
opinion.
the bank on round 1 and get tens of thousands of points right away, therefore granting you access to the entirety of the map on round 1, which, yes, is one of the many features that makes Buried a relatively easy map. But the same could be said about,
and then there's going to be the argument that Buried is the easiest map in Zombies, which I could see that. You could choose to go camp back there by the jug machine with the traps and the perks and the wonder weapons and be totally fine. But if that's your way of having fun, then that's your way of having fun. There's nothing wrong with that. But also on the other side of the coin, you can choose to make it a more interesting experience. Go do other things, like challenge yourself to more interesting stuff. The Easter egg, like, this is where it is, guys. Buried is where it starts to get really exciting.
Maps as well. And sure, having Leroy around helping you left and right could be argued as making it too easy as well. But personally, I see it as a healthy thing, especially since there are so many things to acquire on the map. Leroy is a helping hand. Granted, he makes the map much easier, but he also makes the map far more unique. Instead of just opening up all the doors by paying or shocking them on a lot of other maps, you give a 7-foot-tall man some booze and he sprints into it and crashes it open.
Yes, sir.
That
Leave a like for Leroy.
It's unique. Another major difference between Buried and the other Victus maps is that the wonder weapons are in the box this time. The Paralyzer and the Ray Gun Mark II, both introduced on this map, can be obtained by simply spending the box, whereas on Transit and Die Rise, you have to go on a fetch quest to grab a bunch of parts, which again, can make things easier, but makes things simpler and makes things less irritating. Once you've obtained everything, once you're done setting up, you've got your primary perks, you've got your weapons, and you're ready to pack a punch, then comes the challenge.
Then comes the challenge if you choose it to be that way. Let's hop into it. Let's start doing the steps to the Easter egg, the sharpshooter step, guys. Or let's just go train. Let's go camp. Let's go see how high in the rounds we can get, because that's fun too.
See, what Transit and Die Rise fail to do
both
is ease you into challenge. They throw it at you right away. What I like about Buried is they throw a challenge at you once you've already established yourself. Buried builds you up, prepares you, and then strikes. See, if you want to get to Pack-a-Punch, you have to run through the Haunted Mansion with the Witches. The Witches aren't necessarily the most dangerous boss. They do hit you, but that's not the primary concern. The primary concern is, of course, them stealing your points.
Yeah.
I'm not saying getting past the Witches is an extreme challenge, but
it's not an extreme
does require
challenge.
some coordination. It does require the people to know what they're doing, and it does require some strategy. Because
It requires the player to focus back in for a second, and I love that when it comes to our Zombies maps, because Zombies is an easy game to kind of zone out and just to keep going around in circles and keep doing your thing. But when there's like some stuff you need to get done, and there's things like the Witch's House that really takes the player and says, hey, focus in for a second, it really pulls you back into the experience to bring you back into the great gameplay.
Because you can get overwhelmed in there, and you can get trapped, and you can die. When you get past the Witches and make it to the maze, you're rewarded with a free perk and are then able to pack a punch, which is a nice way of rewarding the player. Setting up on Buried is just a sigh of relief in contrast to the other Victus maps. Once you reach this
so
point,
satisfying too, getting all your perks, getting the wonder weapons, getting some of those cool buildables. I mean, there's a lot going on in Buried that once you get set up, you have a fun game ahead of you.
you're pretty much done. I mean, Transit and Die Rise constantly throw all of these inconveniences at you. On Buried, all that bullshit is cut right through. You get straight to the point with Buried, and there aren't all of these major inconveniences thrown at you. It's a simpler map. Granted, much easier. I'm not arguing that Buried is without its flaws. I think the map is a little too easy. You have an infinite damage wonder weapon and the Paralyzer. Combine that with Vulturade, by the way, one of the most unique perks of all time introduced to the map. And it becomes even easier.
Somewhere on our wall up here.
Subsurface Resonator, which makes things a lot easier. It's an easy map, but it was also a simple map with a great atmosphere, and I didn't feel cheated. Buried innovated quite a bit as well, and it innovated in ways that worked and ended up helping the player rather than harming it. There's also something called the eye test, and when I see these three maps lined up together, I see Buried differently than the other two. It just feels different as well. Buried isn't one of my favorite zombies maps, but I think it is a great map. I think it was overshadowed. I think it's underrated.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. And most of the time it's that way with these Tim Hansen videos. I feel like we're always on the same page, but that's exactly, I mean, it for some reason, and I can't explain it, it doesn't make my top 5. I don't know. But it's such a great map. And like, there's I mean, again, it doesn't go without its flaws, but it is a great time. It's a great map. It's a great experience, and I do think that it's overshadowed. It is very underrated experience. I love Buried.
And I think it doesn't get a lot of credit. I think it gets lumped in with the other Victus maps and gets deemed as a shitty one, when it's really not. And that's really all I have to say regarding Buried. I know it's a large map, an expansive one. Maybe you're expecting a longer video, but honestly, it's all I feel about.
I honestly was kind of expecting him to kind of go over permaperks, which is kind of like, at least when I think of Buried, like, for some reason, that's where I think of the permaperks for some reason, but like, I know it's in all the Black Ops 2 maps too. So, I don't know. I did mention earlier, I am going to switch it up on you guys. We're going to be taking a look at the Smith Plays. We're going to move over to his retrospective episodes. Well, I love Tim's videos. He covers a lot. He goes into a lot of detail, and I love it. I do think that for these next chunk of maps, that's where my favorite zombies is Origins through like everything in Black Ops 3. I do think that the retrospective episodes cover more detail, and what's cool about those episodes is that the retrospective episodes were actually inspired by Tim's episodes, so that's really cool that we're just going to be switching on over there. I do think that Pat goes into a little bit more detail, so it'll be fun to take a look at what he has to say. Guys, again, make sure to go check out Tim Hansen's channel. I will leave it down in the description like I always do. Again, if you feel like subscribing over here, that would be fantastic. We do a lot of zombies. We're on the grind to 115 subscribers. We are almost there. We got like 10 more subs to go. I got something so special planned out for that episode. So guys, if you feel like dropping a subscription, that would mean a lot. Anyways, guys, peace out. We'll see you in the next one.